Good afternoon, guys. I'm excited to talk about how to take your community from 0 to 10K. Community is one of my favorite topics. Quick intro, my name's Kaitlin. I'm the CEO and founder of CryptoMondays London, which is a local community. So I would love to hear a quick intro from all of you here today. And if you could tell me one community that you've helped to scale. Doesn't have to be Web3.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here, really excited to see all of you. I think community is such a strong part of like everything that I've done, right from Frencham Heights, which was a sort of special needs school and says, do what you love and do it with the community, and grades don't really matter. So it's quite ironic that Web3 decided to hover around community, because that's what I've been building for a long time. And I think my favorite community was building a music festival, and we sold it about 5 years ago, and we're putting on a show tonight. So we're rolling back the years, and I hope everyone comes to E1.
Amazing. Hi, I'm Samantha. I am the founder of Yap Global. We're a PR agency that specializes in crypto, Web3, comms. We have been doing this for 8 years. A community that I'm quite proud that we've contributed to growing is, well, actually there's two. There's ECC, the Ethereum Community Conference, one of the largest European conferences in Europe. Been doing that for 6 consecutive years, helping them do PR for that. And then Ethereum Denver, which is another large crypto community conference. And we've been doing that for 5 years now. And so we're more on the PR side, helping them with comms, helping bring journalists and managing press on the ground. And so, yeah, these are the communities that I'm quite proud that we've helped build.
Hello everyone, my name is Kornel, and I started a consultancy in Web3 called WeConnect, following which I became the city lead for Brighton for Super Team UK, and then from there on out I co-founded Super Team Poland, which I was working and helping to grow for the last year, and most recently I've moved over to Jito to start up a new initiative called JET, where we'll be spearheading community growth all across the EU.
Hey everyone, I'm Lorenzo. I'm the head of business development for Sweat. Some of you might know it as Sweat Coin, but these are both where I'm at right now and the community that I have essentially been building over the last 6 years. We essentially reward users for their physical activity and serve as a very easy on-ramp and intro to crypto for mostly crypto-curious users. And I think I answered both really, but with 2 million monthly active users, it took a while for us to get to this sort of size of community, and there's a lot that we've learned, so I'm happy to dive in.
Nice, thanks guys. So let's kind of start from the beginning. When you're very first starting out, what's one thing that really helps you gain traction in terms of building?
I think when we look at like what is a community is not just take. It's we need to like give and take, and that takes a long time to meet people. And you know, when we look at like a blockchain, it's very similar to a festival in the sense that you have your headline KOLs, which are like your headline DJs. You got your Solidity devs, which are like the tech people. You got your community managers, or like your ticket sales. So I think to build a community, you need a common goal, and when you've all agreed on that, just starting and being really happy with nothing happen. You know, if we look at Zebu Live, we were a Telegram group with me and 30 people, and it took a long time for that to grow and for it to mean something. So I think it's that really early patience, because no one's going to care at the beginning, and you just got to keep going and find people that are aligned in your value, rather than like what we see sometimes in the agency is people are like, I want to build a community, but I'm like, why? And they're like, we want to do an NFT drop. That's not really a community. That's like a sales strategy rather than a core mission.
Yep.
Yeah, very true. Samantha?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in more on the PR and comm side. I think a community needs a clear leader. I mean, you just look at Ethereum. You've got Vitalik is the main founder. There are many co-founders, but like he's like the leader and has been the motivation and inspiration behind the Ethereum community growing. That's one example. And so we're always pushing founders to be the face and the front of their community and their ecosystem, because people want to hear from a clear leader. People want to follow people, and people love following, individuals that have a great story to tell and a great narrative to share and to shape. So the one thing from my end is a clear leader.
From my side, I think you want to deploy fast, and you don't want to perfectionize it. Essentially, you just want to go in and have a clear messaging and also something to be able to provide to the community from the get-go. Something that Harry rightly pointed out. You want to step in with a clear offering for what the community is going to be able to gain once it's essentially established, and the hype needs to be existing, and you want to build up on top of that. So whether it's through some form of like offers when it comes to, let's say, a company that you're representing, or potentially maybe some job opportunities, something that can get people engaged from the get-go and help them unlock something that they previously wouldn't be able to without the community being in that place, is where you should start. There's so many communities out there, and a lot of them don't really have a focal point. So it would just be another meetup, another place to go and talk about a topic or something. And there's so many to choose from that they all kind of get washed away through all the chatter that's online. So what you want to do is step in hard and have some great branding and a clear messaging as to what you're going to offer for the people.
I love this panel because we were all able to share a sense of community from a different lens. I guess mine is more on the product side, but ultimately, as Harry was saying, is you need to understand why you're trying to build a community. From a product perspective, chances are you're bringing something to market and you want to get some sort of traction, but most likely you're trying to get insights. And so you just need to be very clear. Like, quality is so much more important than quantity at the beginning. You need to understand whose problem you're solving, and then just start speaking to those people. And you'll see if you're actually solving a problem for them, great. They're going to start to give you those insights. And if you're not, you'll understand how far off from the target you are. And all of a sudden, that insight starts to compound, and so does the size of that community. So for me, relevance and clarity of whose problem you're solving and how you're solving it and making it clear to that, let's say, audience that you're doing something for them is the easiest way to get, say, from 1 to 100, and then that 100 will bring the next 1,000.
And to Harry's point, when you sort of rally behind an idea or a concept, how do you then nurture your first believers, like the first people that are joining you, and get behind your idea?
Well, in startups, like when we're building a startup, you often hire your friends or your family or people that are brave enough or silly enough to join you. And then if as a business scales, and if we look at a company like Coinbase, they get 100,000 applications for one job. So at that early stage, and Stephen talks about it a lot, like, what is your unfair advantage? Who do you know? Who will believe in this enough and be willing to take a chance? And then obviously over the time, you can get new people. But that early stage, you need that grit, as we say in Solana, chewing the glass to be there. And I think, Solana are an amazing community builders. When we were building Super Team in, if everyone remembers the bear market of 22, 23, and Solana really showed up. And it's like, do you still believe in crypto? Yes. Do you still want to believe in Solana, even though SBF and everything was going on? Yes. And that community, and if we look at Super Team in 22, when we launched it in the UK and Germany, and if we look at it now, the amazing growth, but it was everyone being collectively bonded by is Solana even going to survive this market?
Great. Guys, did you want to add anything?
I would say at the very beginning, and actually throughout, but since we're focusing on the beginning, you want to be able to distinguish what kind of people are attending consistently and giving more than they're asking for. People who are coming without asking for anything, these are the people who you really want to invest into your time and also start rewarding them from early. The moment you get people who are coming in and essentially saying, like, I'd love to do this for you, and I'm expecting something in return, or like, oh, could you do this for me? when they're coming in with that mindset, typically those people are opportunists, and more often than not, they will jump to the next opportunity the moment someone can either pay them more or give them some other benefits that they can receive. So you want to really, people will come and go, but you really want to hone in on the ones that are coming in and really just giving more than they're taking.
Consistency, yeah, absolutely. So once you do start to grow, how do you maintain your authentic voice, your sense of authenticity with the community?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. Authenticity is an interesting one because it's authenticity only tied to what you're currently building. But it's very common, especially for startups, to actually have to pivot. So every time you pivot, the community that you had built on the previous hypothesis might feel somewhat not betrayed, depending on how hard the pivot is. But ultimately, if you have built a very good and clear line of communication with that community, just transparency, making them feel heard, explain to them why something is happening, is actually a fairly simple way to remain authentic to building the community rather than somehow come across as just deviating from the path that you promised to them. So transparency, clarity of communication, and making them feel heard generally is a good rule of thumb that generally helped us to prevent some sort of outrage from the community whenever we made decisions that perhaps were not what we set out to do from the get-go, which is the most normal thing when it comes to startups.
Mm-hmm. I can maybe jump in on the PR side. I think there's the authenticity side, but there's also like relevance to the current time. And so a lot of what we do on the PR side to support different community projects and companies is really following the narrative at the time, and things evolve and the stories change. And I mean, like, for example, let's talk about right now you've in the industry, you're seeing a lot of growth in the stablecoin in this market. So we've had stablecoin summer, and then you're seeing a rise of traditional financial institutions now tokenizing assets, and then you're also seeing fintechs like Stripe and Robinhood, launching their own chains. And so it's also ensuring that whatever you're building is also keeping up with what's happening in the market. I think your community will want to continue following you if you're relevant and adding value to the industry. And a lot of the ways you can do that and to motivate your community and to share is actually PR, because people want to be proud of the project that they're backing and the project that they're the token that they're holding, or whatever they're engaging with, and press and media coverage is actually an opportunity for them to be proud of the story that that community is telling in the market.
Yeah, and I think being authentic is so important, and it's something that we've struggled with in Web3 is like, what is your community? Well, community is like a number of Twitter followers or your Telegram or your Discord or wherever it is. But if you just have if you have loads of people and your product costs $1,000 to use, and they're all based in Malaysia or Nigeria or wherever they're based, then they're the wrong users for your community, and we see lots of VCs putting pressure on startups to get 100,000 Twitter followers, 200,000 Twitter followers, but that's so high up the funnel that actually all these projects have spent so long building these communities, but actually they're not moving down the funnel, and it's actually vanity metrics.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to really, it's much better to have 400 engaged users, and one of the projects we're working with is like trying to talk to really high-level CTOs to buy Google Cloud, and it's like they only need 4 really important decision makers and want very, very small webinars versus like a Sui or a Solana. There is mass market and everyone can build on it. So I think being authentic is not just loading your numbers for the sake of it, even though we all want dopamine when we post, and if we post and we get no likes, it's like, oh no, is that good, is that bad? But actually, if we're talking to the right audience and being authentic rather than just clickbait, I think that is a challenge, because everyone does want to grow and they want the numbers to be high.
So what sort of growth levers do really work then? You've touched on sort of content, events. Obviously, here we all are. Like ambassadors, product features. What do you find? Lorenzo, do you want to start?
Yeah, to be honest, it could be all of the above. It's just that the effectiveness then varies probably down to whatever it is that you were building. Like Harry's example, what would work for that business is really unlikely to be the same that would work for us or a gaming project or something else. My favorite is probably collabs, because I think especially from the consumer side of things, it's easy to find whatever makes two communities aligned. And it does, for us, it doesn't have to be, it's a very common misconception, but when people think about collabs for Sweat, they think about only sports and fitness. The reality is we almost consider ourselves to be more on the consumer side of crypto rather than on a health and fitness company. So for us to work with an exchange or to work with a launchpad or to work with a game and another mobile application is actually a lot better received by the community, because they see themselves as being part of essentially everyday consumers who enjoy products that are built on chain for the sake of giving them a better experience. And so it's a lot easier to find a common ground to then drive growth, virality, followers, or whatever KPI you're trying to measure with that growth lever. So collabs is probably my pick.
Kornel?
I think a healthy combination of everything. I wouldn't put my eggs in one basket under any cost. The reason for that is for anyone who has engaged with a super team here, we know that they do a lot of, and they've got a lot of different stakeholders, especially when it comes to different community types of people. So you have to bounce around different approaches for different community members, because they'll have their own preferences. You can never satisfy everyone in one event, one conference, one workshop. It's just going to be absolutely impossible. And with Super Team Poland, we ended up basically catering to people who may have not necessarily had the needs or the privilege to be able to attend in person, by doing online workshops as well as events. If they didn't want to engage and show their faces, that was all cool as well. We didn't have like preset defined expectations of the community members, and then slowly we recognized that the more people became comfortable, the more they started opening themselves up and joining and participating. And then alongside of that, like doing events in different kind of types of venues as well. Like we had one which was basically in a basement. Like we had a workshop there for a whole week, and people loved it. Like the DJs really loved that space. And then we recognized that the more corporate, institutional type of people they would come in, check it out, but they'd be like, yeah, this is not really my vibe. So we also ended up doing a separate event in an office on the 42nd floor in a Spire Tower in Warsaw. So there was like different approaches to different individuals, but they're all part of the same community. They've all got some level of contribution and an important voice out there. So try and experiment, and then see what kind of people attend to different types of initiatives, and then ensure that you're essentially hitting all those pillars at the same time.
I like that you say it's really a mix of events, but also that it is events that build the community, because we're all human beings here, and a community is a group of people gathering together, and like it's built to be relational. That's why an event like this at Zebu is quite nice, to gather people in the UK and to see everyone. I think the thing about our crypto industry is it's actually quite global in a sense, where we kind of see each other at different conferences. The ones that are able to travel at different conferences, but even if, say, you're not able to travel, there will be an event or a super team event or a community event in your city eventually. So I think that really gathering people together is the key part. And then of course, the other metrics like content and the social side of things. But I do think that events, it actually just gives people that, just in one party, one mixer, one drinks, you could connect with a bunch of people and really build that meaningful, connection.
I think it's hard to beat the in-person dynamic that events bring.
Yeah.
Harry, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I love what Lorenzo was saying about like growth hacking pre-built communities or collabs. And so if you're building on ETH, going to jump into a big ETH community, it's a great way to start. But yeah, it's really just providing value as quickly as you can and experimenting. I think the more you fail and the more you know that it doesn't work, you're like, right, I'm going to try that. Because I think if you do too much, we almost want to do experiments and go, that worked, let's double down on it. Like, and especially as we're talking about going from 0 to 10, I see startup founders, and they're like, right, we'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then eventually they're running 9 experiments, and they're not really measuring it. And so as long as we're measuring what we're doing, and if it works, try and just focus on what is working for you, because there's so many different parts of the marketing mix that could be used, but especially when you're a startup, like when people ask me, should we be on Telegram, Discord, Substack, email, it doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you and you're going to really, really focus on, you're much better just doubling completely on X or completely on LinkedIn or completely IRL. And once you've got that working, you can then go on 3, 4, 5 platforms as your team scales. There's nothing worse than just a little bit here and a little bit there. So I think to Samantha's point, it's really what works for you, but being very intentional with our energy, especially when we're at the start, is the most important thing. Is this working? Why is it not working? Let's pivot, let's iterate, let's get 1% better. And I think that's where we see, with Super Team especially, they had such a vision of what they wanted to create of that localization, and I think it's been really successful.
Really successful. It's the most emulated.
And CryptoMondays, I mean, one of the longest running, so intentional. Every month, show up, without fail, and a really good audience, and like it really knows what it is, and everyone really likes it. So I think that's so, and it's global as well. So that ecosystem has grown really well.
The consistency of it as well. So I'm really curious, bit of a controversial question: paid marketing versus organic. What do you guys think?
Well, on the PR side, I would say any paid article, you're gonna like take it with a pinch of salt because it's paid for. So, I mean, I run a PR agency, and everything that we do is organic, and we earn all the coverage because that builds that trust and credibility, right? Like CoinDesk and or the Financial Times is gonna push out a piece about your fundraise. It's like, how do you build that credibility to get your comment in there? We do a lot of that to earn the trust of media and journalists with clients. So that's my view on that, earning organic.
Yeah, I hate to say it about organic. No one knows you as well as you know yourself, and the community as well. So leveraging all the different platforms and ways to get exposure is highly critical. I think in terms of paid, you'd probably pay for like potentially like content being created. So the better content you create, the better the marketing it is. You can publish that yourself, and you can basically funnel it through your community. You could have some sort of initiative where for people who quote, retweet, etc., they're able to, I don't know, maybe win some awards through you, your partners, some kind of different initiative. And then that will trickle across your ecosystem over into others. So the one thing that you would probably pay for is like really, and I mean really solid video content. That's one that we definitely have put a lot of money into. But as Super Team, typically we've done everything organically, and we were just super creative in creating really fun and engaging events. And we bring in a great production team to be able to then create some really valuable video content, and we'd send that across. So we wouldn't necessarily pay for like a marketing agency or anything of that nature, but we would definitely rely on really good production teams to be able to help us publish all the fun stuff that we do.
Distribution is the key thing. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter how you get the distribution. Like getting distribution, getting eyeballs. If you can growth hack it for free, amazing. If you've got a product that actually generates revenue and you can invest in it. I mean, the challenge we have in Web3 is we've had really bad data. We've been blocked. I remember when we were 2018, my boss was like, let's load up $1 million on Google AdWords because this is our last day. And it took about took about 5 or 6, but because obviously the ROI of a lifetime value of a customer was high, and so you could invest in it. So we haven't been allowed, I mean, Google slightly let us back about a year and a half ago, but there was a 2018 to 23 where we weren't actually allowed to do paid, which is why we've seen KOLs do really well. And I also think in Web3, if you haven't got a Coinbase account, you don't care about a new DEX on an L2 with MEV protection. It's such a niche sort of product or message. If you're a really good trader and you've had enough of Binance and you want to go to Hyperliquid, and you're like, wow, we got this airdrop, it's a very, very niche audience. And actually, that audience probably, you're much better making organic content in trading channels where they live than blasting out a tube ad for Hyperledger. Because I think that's quite a big jump from, I haven't got a SX and I'm going straight into perp trading on Hyper. So I think if you have the money, paid can sort of fuel the campaign, but really it doesn't matter how you get it. It's all about the distribution, because so many people make so much content, and it gets seen by especially the way Twitter and LinkedIn have changing their algos more and more. Like less than 10% of people see your content if it doesn't get out of that algo. So if you can growth hack it, definitely. If you have the budget and the flywheel of a product, finding a good way to spend is great.
Lorenzo, did you want to add anything?
I mean, it's actually a very good follow-up from what Harry was saying, because the reality is, sometimes paid marketing is so frowned upon. I speak to some of our potential partners and clients, and some of them make a point of not want to spend on marketing. They just want to achieve growth. There's almost pride in doing it, but they don't realize that the opportunity cost is, if you're bootstrapping, fair enough, like 100%. But if you're just doing it for the sake of it, to be able to say that you've scaled organically, the opportunity cost is massive, because you're just spending time you could spend scaling after all you're trying to do is get an answer. If you have the capital to try a few different things with paid marketing to see which one actually works the most, and then build your content and try to achieve organic growth from that, then you're basically getting the best of both worlds. But to me, I always laugh when I see someone who just makes a point about only wanting to grow organically because they're afraid of somehow cheating the system, and the opportunity cost is massive, because they could just save a month or two. A month is not even that long to grow something organically. 6 months to actually focus on what actually works to grow organically, but having found what the spark is with some paid marketing. So yeah, I agree largely.
Yeah. So let's sort of move on to, you've built a community, you've got it. How do you retain your members? How do you keep them active? This one's kind of for everyone, if you want to chime in.
How do you keep them active? So
yeah,
that's the tricky part of everyone has ADHD in Web3, don't they? Like, yeah. We see it in why airdrops are such good marketing. Suddenly, I was just doing the midnight airdrop, and I got my Lace wallet, and I'm really excited about it, and now I've forgotten about it and moved on to the next thing. So it's really about what's next for them. Taking part, like, everyone's like nervous to post, and it's embarrassing to post and build stuff, but like no one really cares that much, and they get on their thing. So if you make it easy for people to post, if you make it easy for the next step, I'm like, oh, I'll do that. Like the next event is here, or the next group or the next action. If you are like, right, here's all the information that's hidden away, I'm like, oh, I've forgotten about that because I'm doing my next thing. So trying to make it as easy as possible for people to take action without having to think, and trying not to take too much time. If you're always like, share, can we help you?
Yeah.
Retention is extremely difficult, as you mentioned. Like pretty much everyone that you speak with has ADHD here. So what you want to do is have a clear trajectory of like where you begin in as a community and where you intend to go, so that you're not just inviting people for a one-off event. You're welcoming people to a journey, and then you're letting that community take that journey with you, and so that they know that once they come to this event, there'll be another one that follows on, I don't know, the next week, the next month, potentially with Crypto Mondays. You already know what to expect the next time around, and you have something to look forward to. It's really important to have something to look forward to. Otherwise, your engagement quickly veers off into the next best thing. With what we've done with Super Team is we've kept the balance of various events throughout the year, and we would typically write out a calendar, we try to the year beforehand. At the very least, we have a draft of when we know what's going on. One thing that's remained really consistent are hackathons. And what Solana does different from any other chain is it's got a consistency with Colosseum, which happens twice a year, once typically between March, and then the other one at the second quarter, second half actually, near September. So the moment the first hackathon finishes, and we already know what kind of projects have been built in there, we engage different opportunities, different growth hacking opportunities with some of our ecosystem partners for them to remain within the ecosystem up until the next hackathon, or unless they've been invested into, then we've got a different trajectory for them there. So the moment someone comes in with an idea, we already know where to put them in. If they're looking for people, then we'll create a team for them. If they've come as a team, then where are you in terms of your product cycle? Do you just have a proof of concept, or do you have a product itself? So then we know like where to plug them into, what to do, and we have clearly defined somewhat rules on how to keep them consistently engaged and have something to look forward to moving forward. So that's what I would say.
I just want to add on, I guess, comms and how that can help with that, because we actually work with a lot of protocols and projects that may have just had an airdrop, but then it's like the airdrop has happened, the community has a token, it's like, okay, what's next? What's the protocol going to be doing next? And so that's where the community is kind of like probably waiting to watch what's going on. And so there's all these partnerships. Maybe it's an RWA chain, and they're trying to bring on a big brand to tokenize a certain asset. And so PR actually helps with that, because when you see more communications and comms coming out, there's an announcement, and it's exciting, and that actually helps with maybe even, we've seen actually when we do PR, sometimes announcements and the token does pump a little bit from there, and so it does engage community. So I think PR and comms does help with that. Then, as I said, having a clear leader, having a clear founder, what we do is we also place, the founders on, speaking engagements at conferences globally. People love to connect and hear from the founders and creators, and so wherever, say an influential and inspirational leader is, like, you start to see the community show up at their talks, and then getting the founder and leaders on podcasts, doing those several things. So I think that's the communications helps keep them engaged as well, and I think it's just exciting when you see a protocol that is constantly pushing out a new offering, a new development, new partnership, and then that builds that hope for what that protocol had promised to do and set out to do in the industry. So yeah,
absolutely. And Lorenzo, like from a product, like going off of what you just said, like what would you,
I think, especially when you're building product, I think everything that we've talked about is true, but an extra step is inclusion. And inclusion in the sense of it's actually very easy, simple rather, to make members of the community feel like they're actually somewhat steering the ship. So just continue to have feedback loops so that some of the decision, ultimately, you are still the driving force of the community, meaning they are following you, they're following your progress. So on one hand, keeping them updated on everything that is going on, what I talked about earlier, but just gather their feedback, try to understand what they're appreciating, what they're not appreciating, and make them feel like their voice is heard. We see it with a lot of DAOs, like governance votes. Governance votes are a great way for companies and for the communities themselves to feel like they actually are being heard, and there is more than just following an account. Everyone can follow an account, right? So to me, the inclusion to almost create a sense of belongingness, if that's a word, is something that has worked wonders.
And it's something quite specific to Web3. I've never seen community sort of feedback to a product the way I have in Web3.
When Binance.
Yeah, they feel like they have a stake in it. And sometimes they do. They're invested in it. But so guys, I think that's it for time. So big round of applause for the panel. You guys were amazing. Thank you.